more proof that radicals rule the Democratic Party? Plenty of liberals already see AOC as a top 2028 contender. But apparently, the White House isn't big enough for her ambitions. Watch.
They assume that my ambition is a title or a seat. My ambition is way bigger than that. My ambition is to change this country. Presidents come and go, but single-payer health care is forever. A living wage is forever. Workers' rights are forever. Women's rights, all of that.
And if that wasn't stupid enough, AOC served up this eyebrow-raising take on the American Revolution.
You look at Thomas Jefferson writing to Madison in revolt of British aristocracy. The American Revolution was against the billionaires of their time. It's actually the most American thing in the world for us to be fighting for the working class. And it's actually patently un-American to try to aspire to transform our country into a place of kings.
And her fellow comrade, Maine Senate candidate Graham Plattner, you know, the guy who got a Nazi tattoo and wore it for 20 years, well, he is also getting in on the billionaire bashing.
And what's amazing to me is we're doing that. Meanwhile, the total amount of uncollected taxes from corporations in this country is in the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Wow, where to start? I mean, Tom, you're the comedian at the table, but she's making us laugh out loud, rewriting the American Revolution. Look, AOC's kooky is getting spooky, but I want to ask what she's actually accomplished. She's going for her 5th term in Congress. She's been in Congress for over 2,500 days, probably. What has she done for the working people? What has she done for, quote, women's rights? She talks a lot. She delivers very little.
Yeah, nothing. She's done nothing. But this billionaire talk, it still is going to return dividends for Democrats. And this guy in Maine, I mean, he's a total phony, but he's got the voice and he's down by the water and he's shucking oysters. You know, he's dangerous. You know, and when they talk about the billionaires, it does resonate with some people. But, you know, billionaires are not Republican. I just looked up the numbers. It's 30-something, 38, 39% of billionaires are Republican. There's a lot of left-wing billionaires as well. Okay, but Republicans need to learn how to talk about this stuff because they throw out this billionaires thing and it's meaningless because Graham Plattner is not going to be able to solve this. You know, when he's talking about what's he going to go get the money? Is he going to get his own Doge and find this money? You know, go get the billionaires money? He's not. He's going to go to Washington. He's going to hold hands with Democrats to further ruin our country. That's the message they need to get out there. This billionaires thing is ridiculous. And it's not because billionaires are great. Republicans should learn how to say, you know what? I don't care about billionaires. I don't care about them. Go ahead, take their money. I don't care. It's not going to work. You're not going to get your money. You're not going to, solve your budget shortfall picking the pockets of billionaires. It doesn't work.
It's true. And Tom's saying, Kennedy, that, less than 40% of billionaires identify as Republican because they can afford to be liberal, but the rest of us can't. But what happened to the Democratic Party? Let's get back to that. These really are the faces of the Democratic Party. Hassan Piker and Abdul Al-Sayed, who's winning in Michigan in the U.S. Senate race, all this crazy talk. What happened to the fun liberals like your aunt?
Well, it's, yeah, Aunt Jane. I mean, she was a legend on Haight-Ashbury, and, she was passing jugs of wine and joints back in the 60s, and she would have gotten along with everybody. But these people, it's funny because earlier today, the president was talking about the big divide with the people he's negotiating with in Iran, and you've got the moderates and the lunatics. It's the same thing in the Democrat Party. You've got the moderates, and I think most Democrats would consider themselves to be pretty rational, pretty moderate, but the loudest people and the only ones with ideas, unfortunately, they're god-awful ideas, are the lunatics. They are the progressives. And, you've got the general, the Fuhress, who's out there, and she, frankly, sounds like a fascist. You know, she's talking about the presidency isn't enough. You know, it's like 4 years isn't enough. I want all of it. You know, that sounds like a completely unhinged authoritarian person who wants to inflate the size of the state and wants to increase taxation, which isn't going to mean on billionaires. That is going to be on the middle class. She is in Congress. Congress writes the laws for the tax code. So why has she not worked to rewrite the laws to get more from billionaires, you know, like Bernie Sanders wants? It's because she isn't good at her job. What she has lorded over is disinviting Amazon from creating jobs and wealth and prosperity and a future for New Yorkers when she got them to shutter their idea, and the hookers on Arthur Avenue, which are in her congressional district. That's what she's accomplished, and now she's boring us to tears with her revisionist, remedial history. You know, go back and look at the Stamp Acts. What were the colonists, what were they revolting against? Taxation. And she and Graham Plattner, they are looking for more ways to tax you and not just tax the billionaires, because those plans never involve that. Class warfare is never effective. But she doesn't care because she doesn't really have any other plan than to make herself as powerful as possible and her cronies as rich as possible, like Tim Walz's cronies and Gavin Newsom's cronies and all the other people who profit off of a bloated state when your tax money is stolen from you.
I'd like to stick up for Arthur Avenue. When I think of it, I think of prosciutto and cannolis, not hookers. But turning to our Virginia man.
Get it all. It's one-stop shopping now, Kellyanne.
Virginia man, Charlie Hurt. She's revisiting the American Revolution. Can you give us a little history lesson on her? Because when she went to the Munich Security Conference, she made a fool of herself on the world stage. She didn't know where Venezuela is. They asked her basic questions that any of us could answer, and she couldn't. And now she's telling us about the American Revolution.
Yeah, and she's on the wrong side of the American Revolution because, as Kennedy pointed out, they rose up against a rapacious authoritarian government. That was the whole point. And she is fighting in favor of the rapacious authoritarian government, and all of the taxes that they raise goes to that to that government. Look no further than Obamacare. How is that working out for people? Not very well. I don't think that there are a radical and normal wing when it comes to politicians anymore. In Virginia, you have somebody like Abigail Spanberger, who ran as a moderate, as a pro-security moderate. She came into office with a surplus. The first thing she did was raise taxes on Virginians who had already been overtaxed. She took away people's guns, and now they went after this wild gambit of trying to rig the next election, gerrymander the maps, even though voters had explicitly said they didn't want to do that. And now that it didn't go their way, they're talking about abolishing the third branch of government. That's who Democrats are today. That's the moderate wing of the Democrat Party today. And all they care about is obviously their own power and raising taxes on people who work for a living so that they can extend their power more deeply into our lives.
Emily, AOC says that her ambition is way bigger than the White House, but her accomplishments are way smaller than all of that.
Indeed, they are. That's why I think, when what she confuses with impact or activism is, to me, just theatrics. It's her dancing on the float here in New York City for Mom Donnie. She's confusing actual achievements in Congress, which is legislating or funding the government, with simply her theatrics and her dramatics that she's currying favor with online. Like, it's so obvious to me that these people are stuck in some type of senior class president race, some senior drama production. And while we are actually the ones that are recipients of this, when you talk about taxes, first of all, Plattner, what a joke. He talked about that his insight into the IRS was because of his college roommate that turned out to be an IRS agent, which, by the way, I can't think of a worse duo of roommates in my life. And that from him, he learned how much Elon Musk calculated he will, upon the time of his death, hopefully years and years in the future, will have paid trillions in taxes. He keeps talking, Plattner, about the middle class without defining it. And I personally have seen this government in prior administrations and this IRS that our tax dollars fund spend $100,000 of our money to claw back $30,000. The reality is that it's a massive disproportionate investment of the IRS to gain income from all of us, which is what we earn. The demonization that AOC is going about to in creating sort of this revolution against institution, what have they already built? A stronger, more chaotic, more insidious institution, I argue, which is academia, which is the mainstream media on the left, which is their coalescence of protection against rapists and sexual assaulters and stock market cronies and all the things that they pretend to be against, but really they protect because it's simply blue in their seat. So I would love to have a report card that we could actually grade of her, but you have to have something to show for it before you can even issue a grade. So to me, they all get Fs. And you're right, I think Plattner is dangerous only because he has subscribed to her notion that just being bombastic or being passionate in front of a phone is somehow equatable to being a public servant and getting something done.
And you just told us why John Fetterman claims the Democrats are bleeding men as voters.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.